their fans and they like it, playing mistakes and whatever, the whole package, and finally I just sort of woke up. I got out of my stupid miasma of depression and self-critique, and
Yeah.
so I started seeing it from a much healthier point of view.
Mortiis, thank you so much for your, I mean, I don't know where the line starts and stops anymore between you and the persona of Mortiis, so I'm just going to call you Mortiis for today. How are you doing?
I'm good. I don't know if there is a line anymore. I maybe there was at one point where I don't know, where it was like one guy, doing the music, and then the other guy just walking the street, whatever. I mean, I don't know. It's just 30 years now I've done this, so I'm old. What is now, I guess. Is that the dismay of my wife?
is that one of the reasons why over time, I mean, in some cases subtly, not suddenly, but subtly, the character also evolved, the mask evolved, it didn't stay the same thing over in time, so that persona had to evolve with you as a person?
I don't know, I think that's just basically me trying to be creative, I guess. I'm not really it's a difficult question to answer. It's with me, it's mostly just like creative ideas, and perhaps it may look sometimes as if it's a part of my personality or whatever, but no, it's just ideas, just being creative and trying to, I mean, I'm okay with staying the same for a while, but then I kind of want to do something else, or not necessarily something drastically different, but just sort of like flowing along, and then, oh, that's different now, 2 years later down the line. I'm probably not answering the question. I mean, it's just creative ideas, trying shit out, and sometimes it works, and other times maybe not.
There we go. Yeah. Now, the main reason that we're here is to talk about, your upcoming shows and your you already mentioned it, you've been doing this for 30 years. We've got the celebration of, and I am going to obviously mispronounce it, but I'll do my best. But we have the 30th anniversary of, I'm going to say, Født Til Å Herske, something along those lines?
Fairly close. Født Til Å Herske. That was recorded just over 30 years ago. It was recorded just around God, I can't remember if it was early December or late December of '93. It was around Christmas time, I think, when I kind of finished it. Yeah, it just passed 30 years. Almost a year ago now, I guess. So it's literally getting close to 31.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
we have this beautiful reprint that came out. I mean, it looks gorgeous. Do you have many copies left to bring on you? Bring on tour with you for the fans?
Not so many to bring on me. Doesn't fit in my pocket. But yeah, we're bringing copies out. There Out of Season is a label that did the latest ones, the ones that were really kind of true to the original pressing, with the gold and all that stuff, and the original poster was sort of reproduced, so to speak, redesigned and everything. I think the first edition sold out, and then he did another one now that has that sort of like really fucking nice. I actually like the second edition. He did better because it's got these really cool swirly kind of multicolored vinyl that looks So I really like that one. I thought that one came out really cool. So we'll have that one on tour.
Nice.
For as long as it lasts.
On this tour, you're going to really celebrate this album and this early material. I know that over the years, you've shared different opinions about your early work yourself. So going into this and looking back 30 years and revisiting this material for live shows, how weird is that then for you? Like, is that is that very emotional as well, or what's the mindset for you as you're preparing for this particular run of shows?
Well, I mean, I recorded because I'm alone on stage. You know, there's a whole bunch. It's no secret. There's a lot of tracks in the background. You know, I mean that's obvious if you think about it. So yeah, when I was going through, you know, I had to sit down and just sort of listen to the album a ton of times, and then just like piece by piece, we record everything, and that's always interesting because you really get to kind of dissect the music. You know, you start listening to all the sounds, like, okay, I think we got 4 or 5 or 6 different sounds going here. That's that sound from that synthesizer, that's that sound, and I mean, I can't specifically remember recording each and every sound in the studio back in '93, but I mean, as a whole, it's interesting to kind of. It does feel like a bit of a time capsule. You know, you get these glimpses of, oh yeah, that reminds me of the one time in the studio when the technician's girlfriend, for some reason, stopped by and thought I was making cool music. I hadn't thought about that for 28 years. You know, so that stuff happens, and that's nice, you know, for a few seconds, and then they get back to it, you know. But I wouldn't say it's very emotional. It's more, I would say it's interesting. Just sort of going back and getting these little lapses or visions or little flashes, I think is a better word of something that happened in the studio, you know, and things like that I hadn't thought about forever. So I liked that, and also it's interesting to kind of, because I obviously made music in a very different way back then. It was, I don't know the expression for it, but it was very much, you know, straight from the heart and through the fingers and down on the keyboard and onto the tape. It was done in a very quick way, whereas today, you know, I just go through a million ideas until I go with one. Back then it was quicker and faster and more organic, I guess, in a way, more punk. So you know, it's interesting to see, you know, how I made music back then. I started replacing a lot of these sounds too because I wanted to make it like thicker and heavier because as you touched upon, a few years later, I didn't look back very fondly upon that time. I had a period when I really kind of disliked it, and I think that was a mix of me going into that fucking shitty depression period of mine. Plus, I was getting better at producing music and understanding how the studio worked and things like that, and that kind of made me look upon that old stuff, which was very innocent and maybe not improvised, but it was just done quickly, you know, like bam, okay, here's another album, playing mistakes and everything, you know, and I kind of felt like, man, I didn't do a great job. So that's that was something that I struggled with for a long time, and thankfully I got over it, and I started seeing things from fans' point of view, you know, because I'm a fan myself of like a lot of old. I use this as an example. I'm a big fan of like old early thrash metal, early black metal, and things like that. And a lot of those early recordings, they're not exactly professional.
Not quite, you know?
No. You know, so but I love that, you know, because and that's what I like about it. So
there's once honesty there.
Exactly, and there's this hunger, you know what I mean? It's like it's raw, you know, and I was kind of the same way. I'm not comparing myself to like the first Metallica album or anything, but or the first Venom record or whatever, but the principle is sort of the same. You know, you wanted it so bad, you just go in there and you fucking do it, and you're done. And yeah, it's got all those mistakes and everything, but you know, I finally, thankfully, started seeing things the way that the Era 1 fans were always seeing it.
Yeah,
I guess, you know, they're fans and they like it, you know, playing mistakes and whatever, the whole package, you know. And finally, I just sort of woke up. I got out of my stupid miasma of depression and self-critique, and so I started seeing it from a much healthier point of view.
On this tour, the music also comes to life through, you know, the pairing of stunning visuals that have been made. Are those, because you say like you don't necessarily remember exactly your state of mind for everything that you recorded? Does that mean that the vision for these visuals is something that was also more like recently thought out of, or even in those early days did you kind of have that in mind and it just not the resources to get that done? Like, help me understand.
I mean, in the early days, I started developing this sort of concept of a sort of like a parallel universe, or perhaps not a universe, but a parallel world, a parallel existence. I was very much inspired by Tolkien and things like that, you know, back in those days, you know, they were very, very early 90s, and I started writing all these lyrics, and they weren't really, I don't know if I should call them lyrics or just texts, that sort of outlined this really sort of dark dimension, and of course I put the Mortiis character in there as a ruler. I was 17, man, you know, and I was just into it, and but it kept going. So every Mortiis album in the 90s sort of has a concept to it, that is directly based upon some theme out of that world. So it was sort of this never-ending concept until I chose to end it and start doing other kinds of music, and I didn't feel like that those thematics had any place there. And I'm glad I didn't do that, because it wouldn't have fit in. So I kind of kept it pure. So that was actually a good decision, thinking back. But yeah, throughout the whole 90s, I kept developing this world, and it eventually was released in the early 2000s. As a book called Secrets of My Kingdom. That's been sort of it was sold out for many years, and it's been reissued a few times now by so I definitely always wanted to work with illustrators and artists and cool creative people like that from day one. But you know, in 93 that was a lot harder than it sounds, and usually everything costs, strangely enough, back then you probably would have paid a lot more for some reason for these artists, you know. These days, maybe it's because I have 30 years and people want to work with me now, so they give me better prices.
Maybe.
As opposed to this unknown kid back in 93, you know, yeah, that's full price for you, but I don't know who you are. These days, I usually I can cut deals with people. You know, that's like sidetracking my response here, but So yeah, I mean, I started working with David. David, who's done a lot of these. He's done a lot of illustrations for me, and the live ones. He's done a lot of the reissues that I've done. He did the Spirit of Rebellion album, which is kind of a new album that came out a few years back. He's done a lot of my record album sleeves now. But yeah, the concept, obviously, you know, for that artwork, that's those black and white images that we're projecting live. They're all based upon those sort of stories and texts and you know, the scrolls that I created many thousand years ago. So you know, I sent him, like, what I do is I'll develop kind of like a storyline throughout the show, based upon these different texts that I kind of handpick and send over. Like, hey, okay, here's like 15 different texts out of that book. Can you try to create something from each one of them? And then I kind of piece it together when I set up the projector and the sort of the triggering system for the images. I try to ensure that it happens in a certain order, so that it feels like it's like an unfolding storyline kind of happening throughout the show. So there's definitely a vision there, you know, trying to sort of make sense of everything.
Mortiis has had different eras, and you have people that have been with you as a fan throughout that journey, but there's also people that have been really a fan of a specific era of your music because it has been so eclectically different.
Yeah.
For these shows, people that are not as familiar with the first era, but with later eras of your music, what should they keep their fingers crossed when they come to see you, that you might sprinkle some other stuff in there as well, or is this very much focused on this is what we're doing?
No, it's a performance of the first album.
Yeah.
You know, and it's only me up there, so it would be kind of tacky for me to try to do Parasite God in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
You know, it'll be like fucking karaoke night, you know. So yeah, I don't want to disrespect that music.
Yeah.
And I mean,
we'll keep it for the after party.
Yeah, we'll do the after party karaoke thing, you know, in the back. No, I mean, I enjoy most of my sort of industrial electronic gothic output as well, and I think I might have missed a cue in a couple of songs, but by and large, I mean, I like all of it, and if that stuff is to be performed live, I mean, it kind of deserves a band.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So that was really never even a topic. I mean, I know some people are asking, you know, and I've seen some comments online like, "Are you going to play stuff from that album?" And I'm thinking like, well, how would I buy? How?
Yeah,
it's me. It's just me up there. I mean, maybe they expect a whole band. I mean, it's a fair question, you know.
Yeah.
But as it stands, it would be fucking weird.
You know, your early works have obviously inspired a ton of different bands and projects, and that can be labeled under the dungeon synth category. And in recent years, we're starting to see somewhat of a bit of a resurgence, and not necessarily pure dungeon synth, but where those sounds are being, you know, injected into other genres as well. You know, a couple of years ago, the Stormruler album was really cool, where they had some dungeon stuff in there. In the last year and a half, there were some really cool EPs by his new band called Behemoth that had really cool dungeon synth influences as well. You know, in the underground, it seems to be popping up again. And obviously, the world of alternative music is extremely nostalgic. So sounds that were cool and big 40, 30 years ago, they will come back always. But do you keep somewhat of, you know, do you keep track of what's new out there? Like, I'm sure people will tell you over and over again how you've inspired them, or they've discovered a new band that you clearly inspired. Like, do you keep track of that?
I mean, I'm online quite a lot, and I do check social media several times a day. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm totally on top of things, but I do notice. I see stuff that happens, stuff is happening. And I do notice, but I have to admit, nothing sticks. You know what I mean? I'm there. I check my messages and I upload some stuff, and then I just kind of go back to, well, on a good day, I go back to making music, and I kind of stay in my little sort of horseshoe of crazy amounts of gear and try to make sense of it all and mold it into music. You know, because I'm also working on a new record, so I'm doing that as well. I actually just left my computer now to do this on the other several computers, and they're all misbehaving, of course, as they do. But I mean, I'm happy to see it, man. I mean, I remember a few years back, it was pretty much just a Bandcamp kind of scene, you know, with the limited cassettes and 2 or 3 Facebook groups. You still only have a few, very few Facebook groups that are actually any kind of big, you know. But it seems to be expanding, and the influence and people being curious about it seems to sort of slowly. You got that ripple effect, you know, and it just it's like it just travels into weirder and weirder places and corners, and all of a sudden you got this fusion of dungeon synth and other styles, and that's cool, you know. Kind of curious to see where everything ends up.
Mortiis, thank you so much for your time today and giving us some insights on everything that's going on in the celebration. And it sounds like it won't be too long before we can check in with you when that new album is ready to be talked about that you're working on.
I've been kind of advertising that as almost done for a couple of years, but I keep redoing stuff, and this is me being the complete opposite of the guy I used to be back in 93, 94, 95, when it was just like, bam, another album made, you know, on to the next one. And I wish I could do that still. I admire myself as a 23-year-old for doing it. It's not in my nature anymore. I twist and turn every fucking stone until I'm happy, you know, with the sound. It ends up being much better music, in my opinion, but at the same time, it's frustrating because it takes ages.
Well, let's hope these ages are over soon, and then we can discover that with you. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it, and I look forward to this tour.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.